think purpose is what you're born to do. What is yours to do? And I think it's a gift. I think sometimes you find it, sometimes it finds you. There is something in us that knows the right thing for not just us, but for others involved in those situations. And all too often we don't listen to that. But if you listen, take quiet time. Some people meditate, I do, but quiet time to ask, what am I meant to do? What do I love to do that just flows from me that I want to share?
Hello, welcome to today's episode of Creativity Boost Podcast. Today, I'm super excited to bring your way a very, very inspiring guest who goes by the name Genevieve Pituro. Before she comes on to say hi, I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. She's a successful marketing exec who left her career and moved on to the lane of nonprofits, where she distributed over 8 million pajamas to young kids around the world. Now, this is something that I find really compelling because I believe this would have required a decent amount of creativity. And that's why I brought her on the show, so that we can talk about how to fulfill your purpose with creativity. So, having said that, it's my pleasure to bring your way Genevieve Pituro. Hi, Genevieve. How you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thank you. Hi, everyone.
Yeah. So I'm super excited to bring you on. And today I want us to really talk about, some of the things that you've accomplished with your nonprofit. When I came across you and came in contact with you, I was really, really compelled by, your heart and by what impact you have made already. Can you tell us how that all came about?
Sure. It was all heart. And that was strange for me because working in a busy city like New York and working as hard and as long as I did every day, it was a lot of brain power. It was a lot of, that kind of decision, business work. And I used my brain a lot more than my heart. But after 12 years, I was sitting by myself and I heard a voice, and it did come from my heart. I could tell. And it asked me, if this is the next 30 years of your life, is this enough? And I realized right away that the work I was doing really wasn't fulfilling. It wasn't purposeful. It was a job. It was exciting and it was fun, to work in television, but it didn't have a lasting internal satisfaction, meaning. And I didn't have a family. I wasn't married, didn't have kids, but I knew I wanted to bring children into my life. I felt immediately that was what was missing, children. And so I thought of visiting a shelter and reading to children at night. And I started to do that. And I felt very grounded. I felt very connected, heart to heart, with these children who I could tell were afraid and lonely and had been through awful trauma that I could never imagine. And they were there to be safe from harm where they were. And while everyone was so nice and caring, they didn't have a family, and I did. And I never thought about all of these kids and where they were until they could find a place for them that was safe. So when I saw they were going to sleep after I read stories to them every time I went, they were sleeping in their clothes. And I remembered my bedtime with my mom and all the love that she gave to me and my sister and my brothers that made us feel safe and loved and warm. And there were pajamas and there were snacks and there was reading and hugs. And I thought, can I bring pajamas for these kids? I can't do everything because it wasn't allowed that my mom did for me, but I could bring pajamas if they let me. And they did. And when I gave pajamas out one night, a little girl asked me, what are pajamas?
Wow.
And that was the moment that my heart took over, just took over.
Wow. That is amazing. Now, as far as I know, you've been able to distribute over 8 million pajamas around the world. Now, did you ever think that you'd be at this point when you started out with that idea? Were you just, pursuing a fantasy or a dream or a desire or a wish that you didn't know where would end? How did you come about this phenomenal impact?
I had no idea, nor did I plan any of it really. I just wanted to go back to these shelters with as many pajamas as I could for the children that were coming there every day. And it just became an obsession. And the true reason it's grown, even in the early days, because people felt connected to that little girl when I told the story. The same reaction you had is the reaction I had. I was shocked and my heart hurt. And I said, this can't continue. This is not acceptable. This is an easy thing. We can give pajamas to these children. I'm not building them a house. I'm not giving them millions of dollars. I'm not raising them. I couldn't. But I said, this is something that I can do, because I thought I was going to be doing it by myself. And everyone felt her pain when I told the story. And that's how so many people got involved to get us where we are.
Wow, amazing. Now, can you tell us how you were able to achieve that? I know you never really saw that this will become this big, but now it's big. I believe there were steps you took. I believe creativity had some, role to play in the mix somewhere there. So I want to see if you can tell us what role creativity may have played in that journey.
I think that the story, telling our stories, is how we connect heart to heart. Because we can tell people the numbers of homeless. We can tell people the dollars. We can tell people all kinds of things that, again, are from our brain in order to compel them to help us, in order to share what we're doing with someone in the hopes that they will join us. But I found that the simple art, and art is creative, the simple art of telling the story emotionally the way I felt it, not holding back, not telling them matter-of-factly, which is a business way, of sharing something. I found myself letting me be emotional, and often I would cry. Often my eyes would tear up still today. And I felt that story was more compelling than anything that I could say. And so when I started to share the information in addition to what I was speaking, I definitely said pictures speak louder than words. I definitely wanted to talk about the children and build this picture in people's minds, because a lot of times I couldn't take pictures of these children. So I described, this little girl, she was about up to my hips. She had a purple shirt on that was dirty and pants that were too short. And she had big white sneakers that somebody must have given her because she had nothing on her feet. Her hair was messy and it was in lopsided ponytails, and her eyes just locked with mine. So I don't think I set out to say, how can I talk about this creatively? I think it turned out to be my best tool to fill in the blanks with people who didn't understand what I was doing or why. Because when I started to share the details and create the pictures that I couldn't show them as an actual photograph, create the pictures in their minds, it clicked with them. They saw the children. And I think that was the number one reason for Pajama Program's growth.
Wow, amazing. And I think you said something really profound. You said you created pictures with words in the minds of these people. And I believe as you began to share this story, as you began to create these pictures around the places that you got the opportunity to share, people connected with you and people partnered with you, and it just blew up. It went viral, and here we are today. That's such an amazing accomplishment. And I'd like to say kudos and well done for all the great work that you do. Now, this brings me to another question, because I see that you're also an author of 2 books, if I'm not mistaken. I see one on the background there. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yes. First one is this one,
Okay. Okay, there are two of them.
And
Okay.
yes. And the first one, Purpose, Passion, and Pajamas. That is the journey of jumping off the corporate ladder with nothing and no education and starting a nonprofit and no financial cushion. And I was alone. It's the story of all the ups and downs. And here we have an old word called Moxie. I don't know if you have that word, Moxie, but Moxie is grit and persistence and just, I'm squeezing my hand. It has to get done anyway. I will figure it out. It has to get done. And that's what I had a lot of, because I kept thinking and picturing in my mind all those children, and I didn't want to let them down. I didn't want to not show up because I didn't have enough, and I didn't want to show up and leave any out. So that's the journey of how I started and grew Pajama program with very little except Moxie and the picture of these children, the purpose in my mind. And then the other one is called Purpose, Passion, and Moxie, because so many people want to start a nonprofit, and that is how to start it. Again, when you have very little, but you have a lot of Moxie.
Amazing. And that is really profound. So there's purpose, there's passion, and there's Moxie, there's grit. Now, can you tell us a bit about your story? Because you said something about leaving the corporate ladder. I know a lot of people who are in the corporate ladder and who don't know how to carve out a new path for themselves, who want to start out a new, line of business or start out a new journey in their own lives, in their profession, or even in business or nonprofit like you. What gave you that confidence? Can you just speak to someone out there who is contemplating what to do or how to do what to do next, and help us, uncover the secrets behind making that transition?
Well, what I can tell you is most people that I've met, and I think it goes for most people who start a company or a founder, you found a purpose, you found a need, and you felt that you could help to fill that need. That is something to hold on to whenever you're in question or in doubt or are afraid. So that is always something you have to hold top of mind. Put a picture, put anything that reminds you of your why or your purpose. Why? Not just a why I need the money, but a why, how does it fulfill you? What is it doing for you? Because that's a gift you were given, to see that need, to feel that way, for that moment, that person, that situation to make you react that way. And then you wanted to take action. That is a gift, and you have to share that gift. So keeping that reminder close by is number one. Second, you have to have some Moxie or learn how to find it. It's a popular phrase in the U.S. on the upper eastern seaboard, Maine, Massachusetts. And I heard the word as a little girl once in a while. And then when I went up to visit there, I was shocked to see that some of the stores carried a soda called Moxie, and I bought some. And it's got I want to say bitter, but it's got a part of a hard taste. But that's the grit that you have to have, because it's not going to always be easy. And if it means so much to you, it's going to be very hard to let go and to say, I can't do this, because it's your purpose. So the heart is something that you have to let lead you. You have to share this story in the most creative way you can, so people will understand and hopefully help you. And then you have to dig deep, and you have to find that it's like a dog with a bone, they say, you can't let go. You have to find that peace, and you have to love that peace, that Moxie in you, because you need both. You need the heart, you need the creativity, and you also need that Moxie, that persistence that you won't let go until its job's done.
Wow, that's so profound. Now, when we're talking about purpose and passion. What can you say purpose is? Because there may be people out there who do not even know what purpose is. If you can, I would appreciate if you could tell us how one can uncover their purpose.
Sure. I think purpose is what you're born to do. What is yours to do? And I think it's a gift. I think sometimes you find it, sometimes it finds you. For me, it found me in that little girl, but I did listen to what that question was that came up out of me. So there is something, whether you believe it's God, your heart voice, there is something in all of us that knows what we're meant to do all the time, not just in a big way, all of the decisions that we make. There is something in us that knows the right thing for not just us, but for others involved in those situations. And all too often we don't listen to that. But if you listen, take quiet time. Some people meditate. I do, but quiet time to ask, what am I meant to do? What do I love to do that just flows from me that I want to share? And of course, find a way to make a living, because that's part of it. You have to spend your days, if you're on purpose, doing what you love and making a living so you can be responsible for your life. On my website, there is an exercise that says how to find your purpose exercise. So if you go to my website, GenevievePituro.com, do the exercise. It's 90 minutes of quiet alone time with paper and pen. And I try to take you through a simple exercise to really, with nobody else there, no distractions, feel some of the ways you spend your time. Because it's really knowing what makes you feel like this is what I was meant to do. This is a gift from God, from source. And I want to do it justice. I want to own this and share it and contribute not just to my life, but to others' lives.
Wow, that's really, really touching. Now, you said something about making a living. How did you make a living, having left your good job, your well-paying job, and going the path of non-profit? So you left your job knowing that you were going to do something that may not profit you. How did you go about that, and how did you survive? Did you have lots of cash saved up? Or just tell us your story.
No cash. I am not a saver to this day even. No. And I didn't know that I was going to start a nonprofit. All I knew was that I didn't have time to work and take care of all these kids, get them all pajamas. So until I quit, I worked, but not the way I used to work. So everyone knew something else was happening, and I didn't tell anyone what I was doing. And I was running up a lot of bills. Not only bringing pajamas every chance I got to all of these shelters, but people heard in other cities. So I was starting to mail boxes of things. I didn't have a plan. I was just running every day, answering my phone when the shelters would call and saying yes every time. I got into a lot of debt. I met a great guy who couldn't take care of both of us, and it wasn't his responsibility because this is something I chose. So I put our relationship, in jeopardy because I was running up bills and I had a mortgage. So that's in my book too. I didn't handle it responsibly. It turned out great, but not with a lot of angst and a lot of fear and, a lot of irresponsibility on my part. So until I realized when somebody said to me, if you give us a 501c3 certificate, we'd like to give you a grant. That's when I learned, wow. I did some research and I felt, okay, if I could raise a certain amount of money, then maybe I could pay some of these bills and maybe I could eat and pay my mortgage. It took several years because you have to build to a certain number for a nonprofit before you can get any money back, and it comes back slowly. And I didn't have I didn't have people donating, lots of money. Some people, they're blessed to have money of their own to put in and other people that they know who can support this, and they do it with a good plan. I didn't, but you can make a living in nonprofit. It wasn't ever the same as it would have been if I continued in the work I was doing, but that didn't matter to me. It mattered more to me that I felt like I was in heaven, that I found something that God gave me, that I was doing it well. And the smiles and the hugs from these kids, were everything to me.
It was priceless. And I kind of know how that feels. Like, for me, when I talk about creativity, something in me just gets turned on. I get lit up. I get refreshed. I get revived. I get, stimulated. I get strengthened. So it keeps me going. And it's definitely not a bed of roses, but
Right.
That feeling of fulfillment trumps everything. It trumps the struggle. It trumps the frustrations, the rejections, the setbacks, and it keeps you going. Like, for me, if I'm able to touch just one more life with my message, if I'm able to reach out to one more person, I don't care about not going viral yet or whatever it is, but just that one person that would hear the message that I'm here to inspire them with, to help them ignite their creativity and function in the peak of their creative capacity, that alone keeps me going. And when I see the feedback that I get, like you have said, it further fuels that passion, fuels that desire. Now, people say some things like, okay, you have to know if an idea is worth pursuing. If it's not worth pursuing, then you have to stop that idea. Do you have anything to say about that?
I'm sure that if I had told more people when I started giving pajamas to kids in shelters and if I thought of leaving my job, 90% of people would say I was crazy, and one friend did say that to me right to my face. And I was really hurt, and I didn't talk about it with anybody else for a long time because I didn't have a plan. All I had was my heart screaming to do this. And that Moxie saying, just do it. Just do it. You have to balance. If you have responsibility for other people, children, of course, that comes into the equation. I did not. If you seriously might be homeless, you have to consider things. We have to balance those things. Looking back, I wrote my book. There are some things I could have done smarter. And there are ways that I would help people now find a way to do it smarter. I would never tell anyone that it wasn't a good idea. I have heard a million ideas. And I'm sure we've all heard $1 million ideas that we say, really? Really? that really took off? So only you know what's in your heart, and no judgment.
Wow, amazing. Now, what would you say was the biggest challenge, like, when you ventured into this path, before you started getting opportunity to speak on Oprah's show and get international opportunities? What would you say was the biggest challenge that you had to overcome, and how did you overcome it?
Raising money. I think a lot of nonprofit founders, we all grapple with that, raising enough money, finding people who will support what we're doing, because often our goals are big and we are anxious to reach them because we know it'll help more people. Because it's, as a nonprofit founder, a lot of our work is helping people directly with a serious issue, and it's heartfelt. It's different when you're making a product. It's important, and I think everyone should achieve their goals. But a lot of times it's personal because of something in our family or in our lives that we saw that hurt someone, or someone's hurting because of it. And that's hard to accept if you can't raise enough money that you can't continue. So the raising of money was always what kept me up at night, raising enough money.
Great. So now at this stage of your journey, what are you about? What are you doing now?
Well, 20 years I was the executive director running everything. And then I knew I wanted to write a book. And I also knew that there were a lot of people who had been asking me to speak and tell the story, but also inspire and support other people's dreams. And I wanted to do that. So I passed the baton to one of the women who was the president of our board at one point, and she's now the executive director, doing a great job. And now my career is speaking in front of groups, consulting with individuals, and writing more books on how to inspire and support people to really find and lead with their purpose, how to share it, embrace the human connection, and how to be a voice that moves the world.
Wow. Now, can you tell me something about how to be a voice that moves the world? Because as far as I'm concerned, I think that is another flavor of creativity in itself. The ability to communicate in a way that moves people one after the other, moves people in masses, causes them to take action in a particular direction. What can you tell us about, that part?
Well, the world is driven by emotion. I think if we look around, we watch things, we see things, that's what makes change. People are, like I said, moved by emotion. Not because somebody's saying, oh, okay, this number plus this number, this is very important, so we must reach this number. No, people say, we have to change this. We have to do this. And it's passionate. So if the world is driven by emotion, then I believe emotion is driven by purpose. And when you share that purpose, you realize what I realized halfway through my journey. Because people used to say what I used to say, and maybe you used to say this, look at the power of one. All you need is one person, one idea. Look what you did. People used to say that to me. And I was like, no, you don't understand. And finally, the words came out of my mouth. And that's what I stick to today. It is not the power of one that changes things. It's the power of one another that moves mountains and moves people. And that's how you become a voice that moves the world. That's how we became a movement of people who wanted to join with one more pair of pajamas, with one more book, with telling one more person. That's how you move people through emotion.
Wow. So having said that, I'm curious, how did you get your book to, sell so many copies? What was the strategy you used?
It's so funny because it came out during the pandemic. And that's when everyone took a step back and said, is this going to be my life for the next 30 years? So I think that helped people focus on their current and their future selves. We all had a death scare. We were all really, really shocked at the possibilities for us, for our loved ones, for the future. And I think that was a hard time because so many of us were thinking, this is what I've been doing for the past 20, 30 years. And now I don't know what the future is going to hold. This has been my life. I want to sing. I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to work in healthcare. I wanted to work with pets. I never did. And I think that my book resonated at the right time, even though I thought, oh, this is going to be a terrible launch. But it was all about finding that purpose. And not only in our personal lives, but also at work.
Wow, amazing. And you said another thing that, sparked another line of thought in me, where you said people begin to think, so I'm already 50 years, I've been doing this for 20, 30 years, and is this going to be my life? I've come to discover that many people go to the graves with their ideas, gifts, skills, talents, with their purpose uncovered, with their ideas unbirthed. They go to the grave without manifesting their creativity. And part of what motivates me, part of my vision, is to help these people, is to stop them from going to the grave without birthing their ideas in front of a burnt child, without manifesting their creativity, is to help them push out those ideas that they are pregnant with So what do you have to say to such people who may be listening, people who have that song that have never been written, or it has never been sung, it has never been produced, people who have that book in them that they have never written? I've met people who tell me, oh, I've always wanted to write a book, but now they are 50, 60 years and they've still not written the book, right? I've heard people who tell me, oh, I've always wanted to pursue this activity, pursue this line of thought, pursue this career, pursue this business, but I never got to doing it because of A, B, C, because of X, Y, Z. What do you have to say to these people?
Call me. I know a lot of people, including me, don't do it because we feel alone. We feel that people will chastise us and tell us we're crazy and that we won't have any support and we don't know what to do first, so we do nothing. I'll gladly talk to anybody and be a cheerleader because it's never too late. You have to do it. Now, I teach two things. I teach the jump and the slide. I jumped all in. But for a lot of people, the slide will make a big difference in their lives. If they want to write a book, I can help figure out how to do that and not to turn your life upside down, still get it done. If you want to learn about being a veterinarian, if you want to work in a hospital, there are ways to slide that into your life and not disrupt it like I disrupted mine. So I do consulting and I coach people, but I will talk to anybody for an hour or more free just to talk them off the ledge, just to get them started, because your life will never be more joyful, will never be more rewarding than when you invite this hidden secret, this passion, this purpose that you've been smothering. When you bring it out, so much changes in your life.
Can you give us examples of what changes for people who don't really have a picture of that?
Sure. Well, energy is contagious. So when you're doing something that you love, even if it's just 1 hour a week, you emit the energy. People feel the energy. You attract different people. People react to you differently. You'll be amazed at who comes into your life and how people react and who wants to hear more and who you end up talking about it to. Maybe you end up, if you want to sing, maybe you'll end up singing with someone, but everything changes. It's just a miracle. It's life. It's from God. Whatever you believe in, it's a miracle. It makes a change in your energy. So there's that first. The reason that people are so lazy in the morning, I feel, is because they don't want to get out of bed and go where they think they're going. And when you have something that you just have to do that you're excited to do, you jump out of bed if you've even slept, because you go to bed thinking about all these things you have to do in the morning. And even if it's difficult, you know that it's rewarding. And so when you wake up, you're approaching the day totally differently. And that feeling lasts through the day. Now, yes, there are hard times. I'm not going to tell you there aren't. There are scary times when the money is not enough. The support is not enough. But it just makes a difference when you know there's nothing, you know this is yours to do. That it's a priceless gift. It just gives you more energy. It gives you more confidence. It just gives you more reward.
Wow, that's so amazing. So amazing. Now, what do you have to say to people who they've started walking in that path of purpose and they have this vision? I know you said you never really planned to reach 8 million people. You just jumped in. But I've also met people who they have this lofty vision. They have this goal. They have this thing on their vision board that they want to reach X amount of people by so and so number of years down the line, or whatever it is. Now, what about when these people do not have that traction that they felt they would have? Or you started something and it's not going viral. People are not talking about it as you would have wished. You're not you're not reaching millions of people yet. You're not reaching hundreds of thousands of people yet. You put up something out there and just 2 people, 3 people, or nobody even subscribes to it or believes in it or celebrates it. The reason I'm saying this is because there's a category of people that I call discouraged creatives. These are people who are on the path of manifesting their creativity, but because they have not achieved that set goal, or they're not gaining the traction they would have got, or they're not getting the appreciation they would have loved to get, they feel discouraged, they want to pull back, or they just feel depressed. What do you have to say about that? And what do you think these people can do, or what should these people be focused on?
Remember, as I do now, because this is new for me the last few years, remember, it takes 1 minute, 1 call, 1 meeting, 1 day for something to happen. We were in need of money. I was sitting by myself. The phone rang. It was the producer from the Oprah Winfrey Show. 1 day. The day before was a regular day. I was struggling. You never know that one thing. And I can tell you a lot of things. And so can a lot of successful people. They will tell you it's always darkest before the dawn. You never know. That's when you have to bring in that moxie, and you just have to say, I can do this. Come on, universe. I can do this. Show me some support. Because, you give up and that's the end. That's the end. But if you go 1 more day, if you go make 1 more phone call, you talk to 1 more person, just know, treat it like it's a little miracle that can pop up anytime. Because really, it just can change in 1 day, in 1 hour, in 1 call.
But you never know when that 1 day will be. You never know when that 1 call will be. You never know when that 1 piece of content will go viral. You never know when that 1 product will sell, that will bring in that 1 customer, that will bring in that 1 deal, that will bring in that 1 opportunity, that will bring in that 1 big, leap in your journey. Wow, that's amazing.
You put that
but
perfectly.
Yeah, you did. It's very easy to say because you have gone through the process, you have gone through the journey. But for someone starting out, it's really hazy, right? So what was it like for you when you were starting out? I know you probably were super pumped, super inspired to jump in, but there are some people who are not that motivated. They have this clear picture, but they are not super pumped because it's hazy. They don't have that picture, and the grit that we've talked about, they don't have it. How can these people do what they should do? How can they come up with that moxie?
Right. Well, a little at a time. So if they have an idea, do something that revolves around that idea once a week. Say they want to do something with horses, but they have no idea what to do, but they love horses and they wish they could find a way to have a career with horses. Just say that. There are a lot of people now, because of social media, that we can meet that do work in a field that's full of horses. Not only are there veterinarians, there are farmers, there are horse breeders, there are horse racers, there are race tracks. There are a lot of ways to meet people who work with that idea that you have. And if you make a list and you go on social media, you ask people in your circles, do you know anyone who works with horses? You'll be amazed at a list you can compile with all of that. Social media, strangers, because strangers will help. I'm telling you, I've been through it. I've been afraid to ask strangers. People want to help. So make a list of anybody you know who works or know somebody who works with horses or whatever it is that you love, and come up with an introductory hello or an email and say, I've always just loved horses. I'm a CPA. I don't know how I can transition, but I'm looking for ways to explore. Can you tell me what it's like to be a trainer? Can you tell me how much schooling? Can you tell me what it's like to whatever? But that's how you can start to figure out where you feel like you belong in the world of whatever it is That is your start idea.
Wow. So, in other words, ask questions, network with people who may be in that field, and you may stumble on an idea that would help you fulfill that idea. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So
maybe if it's enough to just want to bean your horses and you are a CPA, maybe you could figure out a way to get a client who works with horses, who has a farm, who has a horse, and maybe you can spend time, in their, at their place where the horse is. I mean, it depends on what it is that you want to do, but there are so many ways to get into that world.
Awesome. So, on a final note, what advice would you give to your younger self now that you've reached this point in your life and in your journey?
Just do it afraid. That's what stops most of us, the fear. Do it anyway. Because when you get to the other side, you're stronger. When you realize that all of us are afraid sometimes, you don't feel like you're less than. You don't feel like you're not worthy, because if you weren't afraid, you'd be stronger. That's a lot of nonsense. We're all afraid, especially of doing something new. Do it afraid anyway, or ask for help. I didn't ask for help a lot of times, and I would have cut my struggle in half if I was brave enough to ask for help.
Wow. Thank you so much, Genevieve, for that. That was such a profound conversation. And I think that this is a very good place to bring our conversation to a close. For those of you listening on the other side, I believe that you found some value in this conversation. I encourage you to listen to it again if you must, just so you can get all those golden nuggets that were hidden in our conversation. Also endeavor to share this with your friends, your family, and your loved ones, so they can get a grip of what we have talked about and learn how they can fulfill their purpose with creativity. I want to encourage you to subscribe to this channel, subscribe to this podcast, so that you're the first to know when a new episode drops. And so, on this note, I'll bring today's episode to a close. Thank you again for listening, and thank you, Genevieve, for coming on the show. To all my guests and to all my listeners, I'll say have a good one.